The chain of reasoning pattern for case construction is especially useful if we're up against a hostile audience. So, if we're expecting some seriously strong opposition to our policy, we might want to consider a chain of reasoning argument. What the chain of reasoning argument does is it starts with arguments that the audience is likely to accept. So even though we may have a hostile audience, we start with things that we think they're going to find acceptable. And then we move toward our policy, which we anticipate if we just introduced it right off the bat to them, they would reject. So we start with the things that are more acceptable and then move toward our policy. So, for example, if we wanted to propose some tighter regulation on beer sales, obviously that's an issue that's going to get some opposition, especially in light of things like our past attempts at prohibition. So we might start with a claim that we need to protect children, and then we work on some other acceptable arguments that we think the audience will be okay with. And then as we work toward those things, they're all tied to protecting children. And then we say, and if we regulate beer sales more, we'll also be able to protect children in these ways. So there we have introduced our policy, but we've waited until the audience has accepted our other claims about protecting children and how it's important to do that. And why the chain of reasoning pattern can be effective is that it establishes buy-in with those more acceptable claims early on. People say, yeah, I agree with that. We need to be able to protect children. And once there's that buy-in, people don't like to contradict themselves. So if we get to the point where we can show that regulating beer sales does protect children, our audience has already agreed that they think protecting children is an important thing. So it makes it harder for them to reject the policy of regulating beer sales more tightly.